For nearly 15 years, Mike Wolf traveled the backroads of America, turning forgotten junk into gold. He was the face of a television empire. But then, the camera stopped showing the full truth. Behind the handshake deals and rusty barns, a silent battle was tearing his world apart. A brother walked away. A co-star vanished. And the man who built the show suddenly looked broken. What fans saw on screen was only half the story. What really happened to Mike Wolf? The answer lies far beyond the antiques. In the beginning, there was just a boy on a bicycle. Mike Wolf grew up in Joliet, Illinois, a blue-collar town where money was tight and dreams were heavy. He wasn't the best student. Dyslexia made reading difficult, and classrooms felt like cages. But the moment he discovered a discarded bicycle rim in a neighbor's trash, something clicked. He saw value where others saw garbage. That wasn't just junk. That was a story waiting to be told. By his late teens, Mike was hooked. He drove beat-up trucks across the Midwest, digging through collapsing barns and flooded basements. Most people called it trash picking. Mike called it saving history. He met Frank Fritz in 1982 at a flea market. Frank was loud, stocky, and loved soda pop bottles. Mike was quiet, wiry, and obsessed with motorcycles. They became brothers instantly. For 20 years, they picked together without a single camera in sight. Then came the pitch. Mike wrote a treatment for a show called American Pickers in the late 1990s. Every network rejected him. Too weird. Too slow. Too many old men in dirty barns. Mike refused to quit. He reshot the pilot 3 times. He spent his own savings. Finally, in 2009, the History Channel said yes. The deal was small. The pay was low. But Mike didn't care. He finally had a stage. Season 1 aired in January 2010. Critics ignored it. But Middle America fell in love. Viewers watched Mike climb through dusty attics and talk to lonely farmers with respect. He didn't lowball widows. He listened to their stories first, then made an offer. That authenticity was rare on television. Within 2 years, American Pickers became history's highest-rated series. Mike Wolf was no longer a scavenger. He was a king. But the crown was heavy. Mike suddenly had to manage a film crew, a production schedule, a merchandise line, and a growing antique empire. He opened antique archaeology stores in Iowa and Tennessee. He wrote books. He designed a clothing line. Frank watched from the passenger seat, still driving, still loading trucks, but feeling smaller every day. Mike didn't notice the distance growing. He was too busy building the kingdom. And in that kingdom, there was really only room for one king. The road that made Mike famous started to feel like a prison. But the real danger wasn't exhaustion. It was the man sitting right next to him. To the audience, Frank Fritz was comedy relief. He was the loud, sarcastic bulldog who made fun of Mike's skinny jeans and expensive coffee. Their banter felt natural because it was natural. For 30 years, they had finished each other's sentences. But television has a way of magnifying small cracks until they become canyons. The problem started around season 7. Frank began missing shooting days. The official story was back pain. Frank had struggled with Crohn's disease for years, and the long hours in a bouncing van made it worse. But behind the scenes, producers noticed something else. Frank seemed withdrawn. He stopped arguing with Mike over items. He stopped caring. In a 2019 interview with The Sun, Frank finally admitted the truth. He said, "We haven't talked in 2 years. Mike knew my back was messed up. He never called. Not once." That interview broke the unspoken rule. Both men had agreed to keep the conflict private. But Frank was hurting. He felt like a sidekick in a story he helped write. He watched Mike get the producer credits, the magazine covers, and the final say on every deal. Meanwhile, Frank was still lifting rusty tractor seats for the same paycheck. Mike responded with silence. He never attacked Frank publicly. But his actions spoke volumes. He promoted his brother, Robbie Wolf, from behind the scenes to on camera. Robbie was safe. Robbie was loyal. Robbie didn't argue. When Frank returned to filming in 2020 after a medical leave, the chemistry was gone. The laughter felt forced. The handshakes felt cold. The final blow came in July 2021. History Channel announced that Frank Fritz would not return to American Pickers. The statement was corporate and cold. Frank later revealed that he learned about his firing from a reporter, not from Mike. Imagine 30 years of friendship ending with a text message forwarded by a publicist. Frank checked himself into a rehab facility for alcohol abuse shortly after. He told listeners that the show, the fame, and the loss of his best friend had broken him. Mike finally spoke in a brief Instagram post. He said he wished Frank nothing but the best. No phone call. No visit. Just a caption. Fans were furious. They flooded Mike's comments with a single word, coward. The king of the road had become the king of avoidance. But the feud with Frank was only the wound the public could see. Deeper inside, Mike was fighting a monster that no camera crew was allowed to film. By 2018, Mike Wolf had not slept in his own bed for more than 10 nights in a row in nearly a decade. The production schedule demanded 11 episodes per season. Each episode required 3 to 4 days of shooting. That meant hundreds of days on the road, driving from Maine to Oregon, sleeping in chain motels, eating gas station sandwiches. The body can handle that for a year or two. But not for 10 years. Mike's friends started noticing changes. The man who once laughed easily became short-tempered with crew members. He yelled at camera operators for being too slow. He snapped at his brother for asking questions. On days off, he refused to leave hotel rooms. He would order room service, watch old westerns alone, and wait for the next call time. The physical toll was just as brutal. Mike spent decades lifting cast iron stoves, farm equipment, and industrial scales. His back was a mess of herniated discs and pinched nerves. He developed arthritis in both hands. A fan who met him at a signing in 2019 noticed that Mike flinched when shaking hands. The grip was weak. The smile didn't reach his eyes. In rare moments of honesty, Mike posted about his anxiety on Instagram. He wrote about lying awake at 3 a.m., worrying about payroll, about deadlines, about whether the next season would be the last. He wrote about missing his daughter's school plays and birthday parties. He wrote about feeling like a ghost in his own life. Then he would delete the posts within hours. The darkest period came in late 2019. Mike stopped posting on social media for 6 weeks. Rumors spread that he had checked into a wellness facility. His team denied it, but former crew members later confirmed that Mike had a breakdown on set. He was negotiating for a 1920s Indian motorcycle when he suddenly stopped talking, walked outside, and sat in the van for 3 hours without speaking. The producers shut down filming for 2 days. Mike Wolf was not lazy. He was not ungrateful. He was simply broken. The engine had run too hot for too long. And the worst part? He couldn't stop. The show was his entire identity. Without it, he was just a middle-aged man with a truck full of rusty parts and no place to go. Just as Mike tried to slow down and fix his broken friendships, life delivered a blow that no amount of therapy or rest could prepare him for. In early 2020, Mike Wolf was finally trying to heal. He had started therapy. He was talking to his daughter more. He had even reached out to a mutual friend to see if Frank might be open to coffee. The pandemic forced the show to pause, and for once, Mike didn't fight it. He stayed home. He fixed up his property. He breathed. But tragedy does not wait for a convenient moment. In April 2020, Mike's longtime partner, Letitia Klein, reportedly ended their relationship under difficult circumstances. While the details remained private, sources close to Mike said he was devastated. Letitia had been a grounding force, someone who reminded him that life existed outside of barns and cameras. When she left, a massive silence filled the house. Then came the deaths. Over the next 18 months, Mike lost several of his oldest picking mentors. These were the quiet farmers and reclusive collectors who had taught him everything. They let him dig through their barns when he was nobody. They trusted him. One by one, they passed away. Mike attended funerals alone, standing in the back, wearing the same black jacket. In July 2021, the same month Frank was fired, Mike posted a photograph of himself sitting in an empty field. The caption read, "Some days the road just takes more than it gives." Fans thought he was talking about Frank. But Mike was talking about everything. The lost friendships. The lost love. The lost years. He stepped away from filming for several months. When he returned in early 2022, the transformation was visible. The sharp edges were gone. Mike cried on camera for the first time, holding a child's rocking chair that reminded him of his own childhood. He didn't negotiate hard. He paid the asking price without haggling. The crew noticed that he started thanking every single person he met. Profusely. Like he meant it. Grief had done something strange to Mike Wolf. It had killed the hunger. In its place grew something softer. Gratitude. He stopped chasing the big score. He started giving away items from his personal collection to museums. He bought a historic theater in his Iowa hometown, not to make money, but to save a building that reminded him of his mother. The old Mike Wolf died in those dark years. But from the ashes, a different picker emerged. One who finally understood what really matters. Today, Mike Wolf is still on the road. But the man behind the wheel is not the same man who started this journey 15 years ago. The new Mike talks slower. He listens more. He stops to pet every dog he meets. He thanks veterans for their service without turning it into a soundbite. The show has changed too. Frank is gone permanently. In early 2022, Frank suffered a serious stroke that left him in a rehabilitation facility. Mike finally broke his silence. He visited Frank in the hospital. He posted a public request for fans to pray for Frank's recovery. No drama. No excuses. Just an old friend showing up when it mattered most. It was too late to fix everything. But it was not too late to be decent. Mike brought his brother Robbie into the full-time co-host role. Robbie is quieter, less dramatic, and perfectly content to let Mike lead. There is no rivalry because there is no ego. They are two brothers driving backroads, exactly how it started. Sometimes Mike looks over at Robbie and smiles. Not a TV smile. A real one. Off camera, Mike has built a new life. He began a relationship with a woman named Letitia, a different Letitia, who works in the antique business. She travels with him sometimes. She makes him eat vegetables. She tells him when he is being stubborn. In interviews, Mike admits that he is finally happy. Not because of the money. Not because of the fame. But because he stopped running. The biggest surprise? Mike started selling off his personal collection. The man who spent 40 years collecting everything is now letting go. He says he wants his treasures to be seen, not stored. He wants young pickers to have a chance. He wants to travel lighter. Mike Wolf almost lost everything. His best friend. His health. His mind. But somewhere between the dusty barns and the silent hospital rooms, he found something more valuable than a 1930s Harley-Davidson. He found peace. What really happened to Mike Wolf? He broke. And then, he rebuilt. The road did not defeat him. It taught him. And if you watch closely in the new episodes, you can see it. A man who finally knows that the best treasure is not an antique. It is the ride home.